Hello and welcome to Crane Talk, a podcast that covers all things cranes, rigging, and heavy iron. My name is Isaac Smith, and today I'm joined by two insurance representatives from our nation's capital, the Honorable Ron Thompson and the esteemed Gene Greiner. Gentlemen, did you bring me back anything from D.C.?
Sir Isaac, thanks for the kind words. I've been called a lot of things, but honorable is not one of them.
Yeah,
so
I've definitely been called worse as well.
I appreciate the intro. I guess we can start off. I had a chance to visit Capitol Hill back on March 3rd. It was also the day of the primaries, so perfect timing to be in the Capitol building. I was told to wear running shoes or soft walking sole shoes. I go, I can't wear my Tacovas? They said, not a good idea. So in the day after visiting, 13 or 14 Congress people and senators, I looked down and had over 12,000 steps.
Oh, my gosh.
Wow.
So got back to the hotel room and just sat there and rested my knees for about 2 hours.
So what was worse, the knees or the feet?
The feet were fine because I had Hokas.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I had Hokas. But I'm so glad I was tipped off because it was and at the end of the day, at the Capitol building, these elevators, I mean, they're old. They're not built for Gene's size or Ron's size when you get 20 people in there crammed together, and you got to wait maybe 10 or 12 minutes to get in an elevator, or you can walk the stairs.
Yeah.
So in the day, the lobbyists that were escorting us around the Capitol building, younger lady says, geez, I don't want to wait 15 minutes for an elevator. Let's walk the stairs. 6 flights of stairs, Jane. Mm-hmm. And it's the end of the day. And this old boy.
12,000 steps
So
later.
Anyway, it was a great cardio event. And it was a great session, too. It's interesting. I think the Capitol building, they've got tunnels. I think the Capitol's built in 1907, but they have tunnels in there. And when January 6th happened, that's where they escorted a lot of the Congress people and senators down in those tunnels. Mm-hmm. And we actually got to walk through those tunnels. It's pretty cool. And there's one restaurant down there in those tunnels. They got a post office, and they got a restaurant. I say a restaurant. It's a food chain, Jimmy John's.
The esteemed Italian sandwich, right? The Vito.
Jimmy John's. So that was pretty good. We're all in a hurry because you got to go from one office to the next, and you got to go from the Senate chambers over to the Congress chambers or the House chambers, and it's a pretty good walk. And so we grabbed our Jimmy John's and was eating and walking at the same time, man. And if you got chips, eating chips and walking and holding that Jimmy John's sub, man, it was pretty wild. But
I would have ended up with mustard on my shirt.
Well, it was also the day, I think the day before or the day of March 3rd, the primary day, was when Kristi Noem was giving testimony to Congress about Department of Homeland Security and also about ICE's interaction in Minneapolis. And so that night we had dinner with the lobbyists and with other members of the American Trucking Association, and Texas Trucking Association was there too. She said, hey, I bet you by end of week, Kristi Noem is going to be fired by our president. And I go, why is that? She goes, her testimony was awful before Congress. Kristi Noem was fired the next day.
So the testimony happened that day?
Or the day before.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
And she was being grilled by one of the Republican senators. So I was thinking, gosh, if I'd have played Polly Markets, that would have been really, really nice to bet on yes or no, will she be terminated by weekend. So, but anyway, interesting conversations. So we go up there. It's hustle and bustle. I mean, you're going from office to office, and you got maybe 15 minutes. Some Some we got to see direct, the senators. Ted Cruz we actually met directly with.
That's cool.
Some of the others we met with their staff, and staff was very cordial. And then others, it was meeting with the scheduler, maybe just to taking notes. So, but we did, I think, visit 14 total.
Wow.
That day. And
how many people in the group were from Texas? Because obviously you guys got to meet Ted Cruz, so that's awesome.
Yeah, so there's a lot in the group. Maybe there might have been maybe 40 of us from Texas, and we met just Texas representatives, both on the Senate and the House side. I was the only insurance broker. There were mostly family-owned trucking companies, and we had also a client there, big crane and rigging client, and they wanted to hear from businesses. Mm-hmm. They wanted to hear from their constituents and what's affecting your operations. I think 90% of the trucking companies have 10 employees or under, and are just family-owned businesses, and absorbing insurance rates that have quadrupled in 4 years or 5 years for the trucking industry. The group we were with was a trucking company here locally that was fourth generation. And the owner says, I don't know if we can make it to the fifth generation because of cost.
Yeah.
And the average, and this is an interesting stat that I learned up there, the average tort tax on a family of four in Texas is $4,600. So if you're willing to write $4,600 a year because everything you buy has been increased because of litigation and lawsuit abuse, they figured out that tax is $4,600 per family.
Goodness gracious.
And so that is, when inflation is tough anyway, I mean, when you go out and you double the cost of toilet paper because of litigation, it hits everybody's pockets. So some of the things that we talked about, we were up there with Texas Trucking Association and the American Trucking Association. That's the national association that's all facing these issues with increase, specifically on the insurance side. And there's not an answer. Texas led the nation in nuclear verdicts in 2024. There's 25. The next closest state was California. Mm-hmm. It's 17.
Wow.
So it used to be California number 1, New York number 2, and then Texas a little further down the chain. There's been some upheaval there.
Well, here's another issue. It's been well talked about. Texas had a chance to pass and strengthen that tort reform bill in our last session that ended in May, and we didn't get it done. Didn't get it done. And one of the reasons we're finding out is I think there's 18 Republicans in the Texas House, in the Texas Senate, and 12 Democrats in the Texas Senate, and then there's one that's not been filled. So there's 31 total, 30 filled, one's not filled. And it takes, I think, a 66% vote to get it out of committee, to even get it moving forward. And there was one Republican senator that voted against tort reform and found out it was being funded by defense lawyers' PAC groups. So it's another issue is when you have a pro-business senator and being funded by the opposite side to prevent any sort of reform. So this will be brought up again in the 2027 session. And so therefore, nothing's been done to curb lawsuit abuse in Texas. And so Gene is very involved with our lobbyist working with the Texas Crane Association.
Welcome to Texas. We're going to give you all sorts of tax relief to move your business here, but you're going to get absolutely slaughtered in litigation if you have any over-the-road exposure. So,
well, in one of the bills that's going to be presented to Congress is the third-party litigation funding bill. It's an issue we've been talking about quite a bit. And right now, I think the bill is going to be you have to disclose who is funding the plaintiff litigation side. And if you disclose it, if it's coming from foreign sovereign interest, I think there was some investigation where maybe Chinese were investing in these third-party financing funds. And so plaintiff raises money through private equity, through sovereign wealth, and are guaranteeing a 20% or plus payout. What that does, it increases the cost of litigation. And what I mean by that, if you're an investor and expecting a big return, you want that litigation or trial to go longer, because the longer it goes, the more apt you're going to get a bigger settlement. So it drags out the length of the lawsuit or trial or the litigation, where it ends up costing the defense side a lot more money. And so this bill is trying to say, if you have third-party financing, please disclose who the financing is from and what connection does it have to the plaintiff law firm. And once the jury knows that, it may help in deciding, oh, wow, this is being propped up by a lot of investment money.
So obviously that's looking to curb, the term I really liked was jackpot justice, right? Where investors are getting a pretty nice return on these cases and the settlements. So if that, from what you were in, when you were in DC, if that were to be passed federally, does that then filter down to the state level? I would assume it does, because that's something you and I mean, we've been talking about that for years and years and years here in Texas. So that's pretty cool to hear that it's being talked about on Capitol Hill in DC. So is that the idea? Is they just take it all the way to the top and then try to get it changed there?
Yeah. When it becomes a federal law and statute, then the states have to
follow it, right,
by the federal statutes. And I guess once it goes to the federal level, it's saying, states, we allow you a lot of flexibility and latitude, but there's some things we just have to take care of at a federal level.
Yeah. I mean, I'm big on state sovereignty, right? But I like us handling our own business. But on this issue, I mean, I think it makes sense because obviously it's a big problem in Texas, a big problem in California, New York. But, there's a lot of states that haven't passed this. There's a few that have. DeSantis in Florida, Iowa, right? And who else was it? Georgia, is that right?
Georgia made some reform in 2025. And once you get litigation funding and promising 20% plus returns, this is what's going to happen. You have a bumper damage claim where the defense might have ran into the bumper or trailer hitch and did minor damage, but the plaintiff will go out and hire an attorney, and the attorney has, say, $1 million they've raised on the open market to go out and hire the best causation experts, the best doctors, say neurosurgeons, just the best expert witnesses that they can find, and bring them in to say, wow, that bumper damage, I think our client has brain tissue injuries. And then that case becomes a much larger case because of the expert witnesses funded by plaintiff counsel is much greater and much more experienced than maybe the defense side will hire.
Better funded, especially if plaintiff counsel's book running deals for a rate of return at the expense of the insurance market or the business owner, right? So that's cool.
Yeah. So the investors on third-party financing, they get paid only if they win.
Right.
So they may have 5 or 6 lawsuits that they're funding at the same time to say 1 or 2 is going to hit a payload here.
It's just a hedge.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was a big deal. The other hot button was staged accidents. And so the trucking company that were in our group, the owner of the trucking company, currently have 3 lawsuits pending where they had video showing that the accident was staged. And this could be a car swerving in to an 18-wheeler or a crane. It could be a car pulling in front and suddenly braking.
Sure.
Where there's no traffic in front to cause the braking. And there's dash cams. I think most of our clients have video now, so we can record all that stuff.
I can think of, probably 4 in the last 8 or 9 months from our client base alone where it is obvious. I mean, it's right there in color that it was a fraudulent action by, the person swerving in front of our unit and slamming on the brakes. I can think of 4 right now.
It's a big deal. And in the trucking company, it's funny, the owner, his wife is an attorney. So his wife handles in-house the litigation part. And she goes, we got video of the claimant getting out and looking and walking around, matter of fact, briskly walking around. And then we get sued for neck and back injuries. And then we turn over the video to our claims, to the insurance company's claims people. And each of those 3 claims, they've set up $1 million reserves that we have to absorb on our renewals. And so I go, why? Well, because they're saying it's not clear-cut evidence when the video shows clear-cut evidence. And there's stories where the video gets to the judge, and the judge tosses the evidence because it may be a pro-plaintiff judge or jury. So even when you have evidence, the judge may not accept it. So you got to hold judges accountable to look at the evidence and make good decision making. And that's one of the issues. Even if you pass statutes favoring tort reform, they got to be enforced by the local judges.
So from a criminal's perspective, though, the fraud that's taking place with the driver, engineering an accident, I'm not seeing them prosecuted criminally. So you have video and you're using that video to mount a defense for the insurance carrier to say, no, denied, we're not paying your bodily injury claim because obviously this is manufactured. And that's fine, but I'm not seeing the state or charges being brought up for these people on a criminal level, not a civil thing, but a criminal level. So they're just free to go down the road. So maybe they struck out on this one. They didn't get, there was video or whatever, and they were able to mount a defense. But they can just go do it again, right? Was there any communication on a federal level when you were in D.C. about hey, can can we go after these people and like really punish them, you know?
Well, we have a case now that we have a staged accident. Video shows the other party racing ahead of us and then slamming on the brakes. There was no traffic in front of this car that slammed on the brakes. It's crazy to watch this. And we rear-ended the lady. Well, that video was turned over to a local DA's office here in North Texas. And they looked at it and said, we'll get back with you. That's been 3 months.
Crickets.
So a federal House bill, is going to establish federal criminal penalties for staged highway accidents involving commercial trucks. The criminal penalties extend not only to the motorist perpetrators who intentionally crash their vehicles, but also to the attorneys and physicians who conspire with them to extort motor carriers.
Sure.
Another thing that is being looked at, it's called forum shopping. Mm-hmm. And that's when plaintiff lawyers, if an accident would happen, let's say in Denton County or Collin County, plaintiff lawyers want to move that to Dallas County because it's a more liberal court jurisdiction. And judges may allow more evidence coming from the plaintiff side and limit the amount of evidence coming from the defense side. So there is a House bill presented to prevent forum shopping by plaintiff attorneys.
When do we expect the next judicial hellhole list to be released? I know we talked about it, I don't know, last year at some point when that list came out, but I don't know if we have any farm fresh onions on what are the judicial hellholes now.
Yeah, and we're talking about these issues, but right now Congress has a more pressing issue. It's called the reconciliation bill. And they're trying to figure out how can we fund Homeland Security, how can we pay air traffic controllers, how can we pay TSA agents, which is being paid now, but they weren't for a while. They're trying to figure that out and get a lot of this stuff done prior to the November election dates, because that's when you elect new House members and new Senate members. I think the Senate right now in the U.S. Congress is 53 Republicans, 47 Democrats. The House, 219 to 217, 219 Republicans, very narrow. Mm-hmm. And so you know what happens in November. They're going to look at affordability. And are we better off or not better off in saving money in fighting all this inflationary stuff? So, and gasoline.
It's not looking good.
Gasoline right now, if it remains what it is, it's going to be, it seems like the voting public votes a lot with their pocketbooks.
Of course. Yeah.
And so we'll see what happens there. And I think another bill was holding judges accountable when there's clear case evidence being withheld. There is now a bill to sanction judges, and we'll see how that goes. But these are things that are being talked about in Washington, D.C., and everybody I talk to up there on this business side, small business, medium business, their number one conversation was, we can't afford the insurance costs anymore.
Yeah, it's true.
So where does it end?
What did Ted Cruz hone in on? What was his hot button when you guys talked with him?
Well, Ted Cruz is one of my heroes. So not to get too political here. His ears perked up when we were talking about staged accidents.
Okay.
And the fraud and nothing being done and even presenting evidence to maybe a judge or jury, and they're still discounting it, kind of caught him by surprise.
Really?
Yeah, he was a little surprised to hear that. But he's a great guy and funny and spent more time than he should have with us. Now, the Small Business Committee chairman is a guy named Roger Williams. I think he's out of maybe somewhere in the Panhandle, owns car dealerships, maybe Weatherford. That's where he's from. So he is the one to really get momentum on some of these bills because he is the chairman of the Small Business Committee in Congress. And you walk into his office, and you're walking into Cooperstown.
Oh, really?
He played for the Atlanta Braves.
Oh, no joke.
He did. He's got all this baseball memorabilia. It is really, really cool. Really, really cool. And you would think you're walking into some baseball museum.
That's cool.
He would be a good guy to get the ear of.
Yeah. So I guess I'm not familiar with him. How old is he? When did he play for the Braves?
He is probably he had to be back in the 80s.
Okay.
I would say when he played.
How long has he been in politics? Just recently?
Maybe second or third term.
Okay.
I'm not specific on that, but really, really good guy.
That's cool.
Really, really good guy.
So you guys talked to him as well, or his staff?
We talked to his staff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But, we also, we met Beth Van Doon at one of my clients' offices, and she knows Roger Williams very well. And so she is passing along some of our conversations we had with Beth, who's a congresswoman, U.S. congresswoman,
right.
On to Mr. Williams.
Yep.
So
that's cool.
Yeah. Pretty cool. Yeah, forum shopping, staged accident, litigation funding. Those are all really big hot buttons.
I'm looking here. It says that he played for the Braves from 71 to 73, and he was elected since 2013.
Okay.
So a bit of the time zone as far as where he comes in.
Yeah.
So he's been in several terms.
And I guess they have a baseball game every year.
Yes, they do. You remember years ago when there was
Scalise.
There was a shooting. Yeah.
Yeah, Scalise. Anyway, whenever they divide their teams up, everybody wants Williams on their side.
Of course. Hey, let's get the MLB guy on our team. Right.
Next time you go, you can find his rookie card and have him sign it.
Maybe he could somehow use that influence in the baseball game to whip votes.
I like the analogy. I like that. And another thing we really didn't touch on that I know that all of our clients here in Texas are facing is the tariff tax. The EU and Japan make excellent cranes, excellent cranes. And the engineering is fabulous. And so when our U.S. crane companies buy their product, they usually go abroad to the Japanese, which is Tadano, and the EU, which is Liebherr. Excellent machines. And there's a 25% tariff, which has caused an issue. So I know that there's been some correspondence with the United States Trade Representative, Ambassador Jameson Greer, asking if we can, or the crane companies can get relief on that 25% tariff. Because when you quote a job a year and a half ago, and midway through, you get hit with a 25% tariff, it's hard to claw that back because you've already built in your pricing to the job. And it's created the Chinese to come in and take bigger market share because their machinery is, could be half the cost of some of the German and Japan-made manufactured machines. So I know that's an issue. The tariff was to balance our trade agreement with other countries. In this case, I think it's kind of unbalanced with steel being at 25%. And it's allowed the Chinese to be more competitive in selling their product over here. So it could stall some of the infrastructure building. It could be bridges, roads, data centers. When we're involved halfway through some of these projects and then having to pay the 25% additional tariff. And that's being addressed. I think one of the things associations would request is give us a 2-year exemption so we can actually, the ones we already have building and in the middle of building infrastructure and data centers, it's hard to go back and say we need another 25%. So give us a 2-year exemption and then maybe transition that tariff in, maybe 10% on year 3, 15 on year 4, and et cetera. So that's a big thing going on right now. And I know some of the associations are pushing that with the U.S. Trade Ambassador.
I know a lot of cranes were sold at ConExpo. Did you hear of, I haven't personally, but did you hear of like a big splash with Sani cranes being sold in, this spring?
Sani is Chinese
Right.
owned. And that's one of the issues that they're selling their product at way below what the EU and the Japanese can sell for their machines. And let's face it, engineering is so much better coming from Germany or EU or Japan. And, it starts affecting the build out of what we're doing over here because U.S. economy continues to grow and the infrastructure is going to be necessary to grow. And when that stalls a little bit because of tariffs, it creates an issue here. I'll give you a success story. Florida, they did reform, I think in 23 and maybe tweaked it in 25. I read an article where there's 21 additional insurance companies that now are writing in Florida that weren't there 3 years ago. And they, in 16 of the 21, filed for rate decreases.
Whoa.
In Florida.
I've not heard those words said in that order.
Right.
The biggest thing they did is proving medical damages because what we have in Texas, we'll have a plaintiff attorney, let's say, request a $2 million settlement with $600,000 in medical bills. Well, this is going to be paid. They're not paid now, but we anticipate the incurred being paid, and it builds up the damage request. So if you have $600,000 in medical, undocumented, but I think we're going to do it, Florida says you got to prove medical damages, and we're only looking at the actual paid damages. And that is driving down the demands on these lawsuits.
That's fantastic.
So they've got a grip on the medical bill. And Florida went a step further. Tell us what your connection is, plaintiff attorney, with your treating clinics. Do you have financial interest? Are you referring all of your clients to this one clinic? And now you have to disclose the connection between that. And it's driven down the awards on these lawsuits.
Sunlight is a pretty good cleaning agent, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, so it goes into more, and then it kind of ties in. If there's future medical that we know of, it's got to be tied into what the Medicare reimbursement amount would be. So it limits these phantom demands that we're going to cost $2 million to treat, where Medicare goes, we're going to do it for $150,000. And they also changed the negligence standard. So this is good, and Texas is like this, which means if a claimant is found to be more than 50% at fault, they can actually not recover anything. So if you can prove we are 49%, we being the defense side, the claimant plaintiff, if we can get 51% on their contribution, then it was zero. Before this law, it was percentage-wise. If you're 49, you pay 49% of the claim. Now they pass that where if you're 49, you can pay zero, and that's a huge thing. You got to prove that the other party is 51% negligent. So these are some of the things that Florida did. Georgia also passed some reform. Georgia's got new insurance companies coming in, and they're filing for 10% rate decreases. So we're seeing it work. We're seeing it work in Florida, and we're seeing it work in Georgia. And Louisiana has also passed some reform along with Iowa. So it can work, and it can work in Texas. Texas is a pro-business state, but it starts at the legislature. Gene and myself have been pretty active with the local lobbyists down in Austin, getting their ear and getting this thing back on gear and not let well-funded pro-business leaders be funded by the opposition. And I mean, it's a smart move. It's a real smart move. So that's my 2 cents.
That's awesome. That's a great update. What a trip to D.C. That's cool. It's really neat to hear that the things that we've been fighting here locally, are now being discussed on a federal level. So those states have passed reform and they're improving. That's awesome. But there's a bunch of states that haven't been able to do it. And so maybe this really turns the tide. It turns the page. I sure hope it does.
Well, right after lunch, holding my bag of Jimmy John's chips and the Italian sub half-eaten, our lobbyist says, well, let's go. Here's a Senate hearing. Let's just step in there and sit at the back and see what they're up to. But you can't take food in here. I go, well, I've got half my sub left and half my bag of chips, and I'm starving to death. I had to trash it.
Oh, man.
I had to trash that Jimmy John's half sub.
My knees hurt. I'm hungry. I've got chip flavoring all over my shirt. But I want to finish my thanks.
I've told the lawsuit abuse story to 13 different reps now, and so I'm not saying that anymore. I've already told 13 people that. But anyway, the hearing was about Minnesota allowing CDL drivers to undocumented immigrants.
I was following that one around that same time. I saw that one online.
Well, actually, there was a recent 60 Minutes bit on this coming out of Minnesota.
Okay. Well,
foreign-owned trucking companies changing the name on their vehicles and even changing with magnetic stickers so they could just change it quickly.
Well, that was a hearing because
no way.
I think there was an undocumented CDL driver that had an accident, and there was actually 3 fatalities.
In Minnesota, went back to California, was trying to leave the country. A customer of ours told me about the 60 Minute bit. He watched it, called me, so I found it. And he was about to leave the country, and they caught him in California and charged him. I guess it would have been involuntary manslaughter.
Yeah, so you had supporters of keeping illegal immigrants with CDLs, and then they were being grilled by House members.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. The driver did not speak English, couldn't read English. And I think the details of the accident were he used the median to turn around and go the opposite way on the highway. These are normally those little cut-throughs that police officers use, and they sit there, and there's a sign that says for official use only. Well, he couldn't read it. And so he used that cut-through to turn through and pulled out onto the highway, and that accident happened. So the big argument is, okay, so you're a CDL driver, but you can't read our signs. How in the heck did you take the test to pass and become a CDL driver if you can't even read a street sign? So, yeah.
So we sit in the back. I mean, the hearing conference room was probably 100 people. You had press in there, and I think it might have been on the C-SPAN. I'm not sure, but we were at the back listening to this, and we only had 20 minutes because we had to go to the next meeting, but it was really interesting to see the back and forth. Really, really cool.
Was that the one where the governor was being questioned? Or was that?
No, you're talking about Governor Walz?
Yeah.
No, he was not there. I would have recognized him.
Okay.
He was not there. And I'm going to kind of end with these hard facts. We talk about auto insurance reductions in Florida, auto insurance reductions in Georgia, auto insurance reductions in Louisiana. All three of those states had some form of tort reform, lawsuit abuse reform, in one way or the other. Now, in Texas, carriers requested a 25% increase in their filings for the upcoming, or for 2026. So we have 15% reduction, Florida, 10% reduction in Georgia, 8% reduction in Louisiana. Then we get to good old Texas, and carriers are filing for a 25% increase in auto rates.
It's a 40-point swing between Texas and Florida.
Yeah, so when you hear tort reform is a bunch of malarkey, doesn't work, we hear that quite a bit from certain individuals. The facts are hard to disagree with. It was fun. We're being involved on the local, state level too, and telling our stories, and we'll see what happens.
Fantastic.
Gene, we always end up with, you're always into something, man.
I finished the square body. It moved under its own power a week ago. So
Moved under its own power.
it moved under its own power. Yep. So all that work with the motor and the transmission and all the electrical and putting that LS and all that stuff in there. I put the key in the truck, started it, and I drove it. And then I went to the county tax office, and I got a registration sticker for this thing. So now it's moving under its own power on the road. So, I've driven it around the neighborhood and all that fun stuff. Took the kids out in it, and they thought it was a blast. This is a giant square body Blazer, but it hasn't caught on fire. So that's a plus, because supposedly it's safe for the road, based on my registration sticker. But,
Is it still parked in the garage?
Oh, yeah. Well, it is. I drove it into the garage. Didn't have to winch it, tow it, nothing. So it is an operating vehicle. I'm so pumped up.
Where do you park the big bus you drive around?
Oh, the Excursion?
Yeah.
It can be in the garage. Our garage is a weird shape, and so it can actually fit. There's like an extra couple inches where I don't have to put the tow hooks through the sheetrock, so it'll fit. But normally it's in the driveway. If a hailstorm is coming, I'll pull it in. But yeah. All my old junk is operating right now. It's actually working. So
It's going to look like a car lot. Once the trips start driving,
yeah.
I mean, you can have 6 cars over there.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, the idea is they're going to have the Excursion when they turn 16, and they just get to fight over who drives it, right? I'll go get another pickup or something.
So when I got my Tesla, Gene was laughing at me because he drives this big old Excursion bus, and I'm tuning around a little Tesla. Gene, what's your diesel bill right now?
Hey, I'm people vote with their pocketbooks. I'm joking. It sucks. What was it? Last time I filled up, $4.99 a gallon. Come on. Can you imagine what filling up a Liebherr costs right now?
Gene, diesel and tariffs.
Yeah, sure.
And lawsuit
Right.
reform.
Let's do it. Let's go.
I'm going to go start a crane company.
Oh, man. The expense side of that P&L is literally on fire. Yeah. Wow. No, but yeah, all my old junk, my old cars are operating right now, and I couldn't be happier, So
Well, you walk into a client now, and it used to be, "Hey, Ron, how's your wife? How's the kids? Taking any trips lately?" I walk in now, and it goes, "What's my insurance increase?"
Yeah, right. Yep.
Topics have changed. I always kind of end on maybe a little bit of movie talk, but the latest Taylor Sheridan series, which I love, Taylor Sheridan. I think it's Buffalo Gap, somewhere in Texas where he grew up. But the latest one is called The Madison, and it brought back Kurt Russell and Michelle Pfeiffer. Those are the two main stars. It takes place in New York City, but Kurt's got a place in Montana that he goes to as much as he can to go fly fishing and just hang out with his brother, is also there. And his brother is played by Matthew Fox, who was the star on the TV series Lost. You remember that series? Certain events happened. I'm not going to get to the details, but Michelle Pfeiffer and her two daughters end up moving to Montana. And it's a beautiful cinematography. That series was developed after Kevin Costner couldn't come to terms with finishing Yellowstone. So Taylor was going to do a spinoff of Yellowstone, and then he decided, I'm going to make its own series. And it's 6 episodes called The Madison. The original Kurt Russell part was offered to Matthew McConaughey, who turned it down. He had other commitments. And when it debuted back in March, it was the highest grossing Taylor Sheridan, who's done Yellowstone and the Billy Bob Thornton series. It did $10 million. It became the biggest debut of Taylor Sheridan's career. It drew over 8 million streaming viewers,
Wow.
and that broke a record. So I would say it's good. I like all the Taylor Sheridan series, but this one we kind of binged watched. It released 3 episodes, and then you had to wait a week and another 3 episodes. So check it out if you can. If you got Paramount Plus, if you don't, watch something else.
Right on. Well, thank you for listening, and be sure that you subscribe and leave the show a 5-star review. If you have any questions, you can reach out to us by following the links in the show notes below, and we will see you next time.